assigning clock and tap tempo, external tap tempo, to the tonal recall using Boss MS-3, it would probably work the same with a ES5 and ES8, but I'm going to use the MS-3. So, first let's look at our connections. This is important, this matters, let's look at it. So, I have Midi coming out of the MS-3 going into a Chase Bliss Midi box here. Move this camera up a little bit. So it's going into the Midi box. I'm not using any Midi through at this moment. And then I have 4 outputs going out to the Brothers is Midi 1. The Ecosystem is Midi 2.
Sorry,
Reverb is Midi
sure.
3. Haha, I tripped my Amazon Alexa. That was funny because I said Echo. Okay, Midi 1, Midi 2, Midi 3, Midi 4. And all of that is routed from the Midi box. So to recap, just a Midi cable coming in, and these are all made by Disaster Area. These are multi-jack, Chase Bliss multi-jack cables, but I like them because you can cut them to any size and they're super like low profile. Like those are just really kind of the smallest option that I've found, and I use these on all my boards. And then the various ones are going out to various pedals. For example, you see this one is red, and if you look down at the Brothers, you see red there. So I know that that's the one going to Brothers. Red to red. The one on the Tonal Recall, I think, is the one that's not marked. I see blue up here and green over here. Anyway, that's the routing, Midi routing. I don't know if I really need to talk about signal chain. I think I'm just going to leave that off for now. Let's look at the functionality that's going on. So, let's see. You saw me tapping tempos using an external switch. Let me reposition this camera a bit. You saw me adjusting. This external switch is feeding data into the MS-3, and then the MS-3 is sending the Midi out to the Tonal Recall. So you see they're working perfectly. If I recall a preset, let's see, then it defaults to the tap that's on that preset. And that is 240. That's really fast. If I adjust clock, and that's what I'm doing here, you can't see the display, but it now reads, let's go to something normal. So there's 120 right there. And I have this set to dotted eighths, so that sounds like this. And that recalled a preset also. Get back to my live mode. Let's look at how, so I showed that this is responding to clock, which is this, and it responds to tap tempo. And now let's look at how you would set that up within the MS-3. So for that, we're going to zoom into the controls here. Let me bring the camera down. Sorry. Zoom in a bit. I'm going to zoom in a lot just so we can really see what's going on. pretty simple to set this up. It's a little bit overwhelming if you're not super familiar with it, for sure. Trying to get the best. There, that's pretty good. All right. Let's see. So first you need to make sure that your tonal recall is assigned to a specific MIDI channel. So I'm going to push edit, and then let me see if I can turn the brightness up on this at all. There we go. So I'm in edit, and then I'm going to roll. I'm going to refer to these three knobs here. I'm going to say 1, 2, and 3, just so you know which one I'm pressing. Okay, so now I'm going to roll knob 1, which is the left one, like I just said. It's a little too bright. There we go. We're going to go all the way to where it says control. I'm going to enter that. We're going to assign this to MIDI 4. So I've got patch 4 there. Enter. And then I'm going page right and page left. You see this changing right here. So we're all the way to the left. You want to put that on whatever MIDI channel that you want to assign your tonal recall to. We're going to do 4 in this example. Then we're going to scroll over to PC is program change, but I like to call it preset change, just because that's what you send when you change a preset. So that's kind of a handy way of thinking of that. And we're not going to send any CC messages, so we're going to leave all that off. The only thing we need is channel 4 and some preset. I know that my first preset starts on 11, so we're just going to use 11 for this example. Now I'm pressing and holding exit and enter at the same time to write. And you get that write utility, and I'm just going to push enter a couple times, and it's executing now, so we know that that's saved. Excuse me. So what you would do to assign your tonal recall to that MIDI channel is you would cut the power by pulling it out, the power jack, and you see everything turn off. You want to press and hold the 2 bottom switches, keep them held in, and then put that MIDI cable back in, and then we're just going to send that PC. I don't have one assigned on this switch, so watch what happens when I press number 1 now. You're going to see this center LED. Sometimes it takes a couple tries. There we go. Now it's going to do it every time. Green, red. It just changes color every time it receives any program change. So that's how you would assign tonal recall to be on channel 4. Now, as far as getting clock to go out, we're going to go into the MS-3 again. And I'm pressing the top right that says menu. I don't normally use clocks. I've already gone in and adjusted it, but when you bring up the menu, it would be here to display. And I'm going to roll knob 1 until I get over to, obviously, MIDI. Press enter. And the only option is clock out off and clock out on. So if we have it set to off, then your MIDI pedals will ignore whatever clock is coming out of your controller. And clock just goes everywhere. So if you want clock going out to everything, then you want to push it to on. And this is a global setting. I don't think you can do this with individual presets. Although I should mention, if you wanted to have clock on all the time, but say for one particular patch or one part of a song or maybe one entire song, you wanted your tonal recall or any chase bliss pedal to ignore clock, we've added a feature. It is CC number 51. And when you send CC 51, your chase bliss pedal will ignore MIDI clock. And then what you do is you have it set to 0 is off and 127 is on. So if you send CC 51 with a value of 127, it's going to ignore clock. And if you put the value to 0 or not send CC 51, then it will listen to MIDI clock. Alright, getting back to, in fact, let me just show you this real quick. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to write that. So now when we look at the tonal recall, this is clock, this is the tonal recall. And let me see if it'll do it with my tap tempo. Alright, so it's already not flashing at the same rate as the clock. This is staying the same. This is going really slow. So the ignore clock, or not the ignore clock, but the fact that I turned the clock off is working. I'm going to go back in and turn that back on. So now it's listening to clock and it now slowed down. So that's how clock works. To have a look at how an external tap, this guy over here, or you can buy like a Boss, I think it's the FS7 or 6 or something. But this is also, a lot of guys make these. This is one that I made. So what you want to do for that is go into, and you know, a lot of what I'm showing this for a tonal recall because it's important to know how the MIDI works. But if you have another, like if you had a timeline or some other like MIDI delay pedal, this would also work. A lot of what I'm showing you would also work with the ecosystem. So there's lots of applications for this. Now let's look at how we assign that external tap tempo. So going back into the controls, just trying to get this centered here. So I'm going to press edit, and then I'm turning knob 1 all the way over to control again. And it depends on where you have your external switch plugged in, but I have mine plugged into input 3-4. So you start off on number 1, and these are all the switches that are on your MS-3 unit. And then you start to get over here. So control 3 and control 4 for my particular switch. Yours might be plugged into 1-2. Mine's plugged into 3-4. And on mine, 3 is the top switch, 4 is the bottom switch. So if I enter this, you can already see that it's on. This is the settings you'd want for what it works. But there's all kinds of stuff you can do. When you first pull it up, it would be on off. And here it is toggling different modulations and effects. If you keep going, you're going to find BPM tap. That's what you'd want to do for changing the global clock setting on your MS-3. So as long as you have that set, and then we write that, So now whatever I tap in over here, it translates here. The factory default is that this light isn't blinking with the tap. Let me see if I can find. I forget where that's located. Let me see if I can find it here. It's kind of hidden somewhere goofy. Okay, found it. So, unless you've already done this, your LED from memory manual isn't flashing with the clock, and if you want that to happen, so here's like your just normal screen. I'm pressing menu. When you press menu, it starts at display. Scroll over to, I'm turning knob 1 over to play. Press enter. And when you bring that up, it comes up here. And now I'm going page over to the very last one, page 4, and beat LED. When it's off, it's just solid like that. And if you want it blinking, then you turn it on. That's all it is. That's pretty handy. I don't know why the factory default on that is to off, but there it is. I think that's all I wanted to cover in this one. So since I've specifically shown this with Chase Bliss, this doesn't just work with delays. This would also work with, if you have a wound tone or a warp vinyl, it would make the rate on those do the same thing. So pretty handy way to use stuff. I don't personally use clock because I just have different rates set in my presets, and not using clock kind of allows me to kind of change things. It allows things to be set up per preset, but then on the fly, if I want to adjust things, it's not going to snap to clock. It's going to be like kind of more free-flowing, free-form. That's how I like to work. Anyway, that's how we do it.